That exciting time of the year, folks, is right now. We're only a couple of weeks away from the beginning of that new chapter, that new season, right? You know what? Yeah, it is exciting. So you know what? Yeah, this goes for players, folks, that could, that is going to a new team with a new coach and most likely a new set of with players. And this also could relate to the player that just staying to the same association, same team, but you're moving up a level and age. But you might have that new coach, and I guarantee you that you'll probably have a few new players on board. So look at there's one thing I want to talk about today on this episode, folks. Yeah, first impressions matter. So welcome back to the Brass Ass Podcast, folks. Yes, I am your host, Suitcase Ace. Today, I'm going to kick off a series on preparing for that new hockey season, And in this first episode, right, we're going to be talking about something that every player faces. Yes, first impressions. Truthfully, when you join a new team or walk into tryouts, the second you hit that freaking ice, folks, people are watching, right? Coaches, scouts, even your new teammates. And here's the honest truth. You don't get a second chance at a first impression. So today, I'm going to talk about why first impressions really matter to the beginning of your exciting new season. In hockey, first impressions, folks, can shape how, let's say, a coach sees you for weeks, right? Sometimes even for the entire season. First impressions. Think about it, right? If a player comes out flying in the, let's say, the first practice, right, showing energy, effort and focus, the coach immediately thinks, yeah, this kid really wants to be here. Now, on the other hand, if a player shows up late, drags through all the drills, right, like they don't care, or has a sloppy body language, the coach, I'll tell you, will start questioning commitment right away. And it's not just about the skill, folks, right? Coaches know talent, right? When they see it, they really do. Especially the good coaches, they know talent when they see it, folks, right? But what they're really watching for is the effort, attitude, and how coachable you really are. That's what they're looking for. And you know what coaches notice right away? You want to know about? I'll tell you what they notice right away. Okay, let's break down what coaches are actually looking for. Okay, for those first few practices and games, and this could be starting in August, September, whenever you're starting. But this is what the coaches are looking for, folks. They're looking for effort, right? Are you going full speed in the drills, or are you just coasting? You know what? I'll tell you something, folk. Effort sets the tone, right? Also, your body language. Do you bounce back after a mistake, or do you slam your stick? Right? Coaches, I'm going to tell you, folks, coaches hate the bad body language, right? And that's what they're looking for, and that's what they notice right away. And also, what they're looking for, folks, is, I'm telling you, is coachability. This is at the beginning of the season, mind you, right? This is like in September. So you got to coachability, right? If a coach corrects you, right, do you listen and adjust, or do you roll your eyes, right? Like, you're still stuck on last year or 2 years ago, right? I'm telling you, coaches know that, right? They're also noticing your team interaction. They really are, right? Do you talk with your teammates? Do you encourage them, or are you only focused on yourself, right? They notice that. One player might not be the most skilled, folks, but if they're giving 100% and showing leadership, coaches notice. And I tell my players, folks, give 100%. The best players, that are going to go far in this game are the ones that give 100% at all times. I remind my players that right from September right until the end, right? Sometimes that's the difference, folks, between making a team and not. Trust me, it is. I got, always examples, folks. You know what? I'll tell you, I've been in the game for a long time, and I've seen it firsthand, right? Yeah, that skilled player shows up, tries to rely just on the talent alone, right? And the coach, I'll tell you, really isn't not impressed. No. Meanwhile, you got another kid, right? On the other hand, maybe not as naturally talented, but is first in line for all the drills, asks questions, and pushes the pace of their play, right? In practice. Well, guess who gets more opportunity, folks, right? The player, the second player I just talked about. Hockey is competitive, right? But it's also about trust. Coaches want to know, and this is the truth. Can I rely on this player every single shift? First impressions, folks, give them that answer very quickly. And that could be in September. Those first impressions, give the coach that insight. Can they trust you every single shift, right? So I got tips. I always got tips for you, folks, right? So what can you actually do to nail that first impression? Is the big question. Here are a few quick tips. Okay, number one, folks, be early. Right? Show you're prepared and committed. That's number one. And also bring energy, right? High tempo, every drill, every rep. And you got to stay positive. You got to stay positive. Mistakes will happen, but how you respond is what really matters. And that's the truth. And you got to communicate. Right? Be communicative, right? Talk on the ice and encourage your other teammates. Respect. You know what? You got to respect the coaches, your teammates, all staff. Treat everyone the right way. I'll tell you, if you focus on those 5 things that I just told you, you know what? You're going to stand out right away in a great way for your new coach, right? So, look, to wrap this all up, because I want to keep this short, but I want to get to the point. First impressions, folks, matter because they set the tone for your entire season, believe it or not. And you don't have to be the most talented player on the ice, no. But you need to show effort, attitude, and team-first mentality right from day one. You really do. So, look, in the next episode, because I'm going to be talking about the new season, different parts that you need to know, right? Well, and that next episode, folks, that I want you to tune into, I'm going to talk about how to adjust to a new coach's system and why buying in early can make or break your season. So, folks, again, thanks. I want to thank you so much for listening. And remember, effort and attitude are 2 things that you always can control. And that's the truth. Yes, I am your host, Suitcase Ace. Yes, this is the Brass Ass Podcast, folks. Now you have just listened to the rest of the story.